Welcome to Crown and Connections with Rob Clemens. Today we're talking about business leadership, as we often do, and we have a special guest with us, and I've known this guy for a number of years. He's been a huge part of the Myrtle Beach community. Got big things ahead always, and definitely inspired to have you on the show. John Krajc, how's it going, bud?
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and it has been a number of years. By the way, you have a great podcast voice.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, people have been telling me you should be on the radio for years, and it's like, well, I'm not going to be, a radio show guy overnight, but I can apply it through my podcast.
Did they say that because you're talking, or did they say you had a face for radio? Because,
they said that, and then when the tears started coming down, they said, no, because your voice.
I love it. I love it.
But no, how's it going, John?
Very good. I'm super thankful to be here. Great weather. We're at the beach, so it can't be too bad, right?
Yeah, no, man. I mean, Myrtle Beach, we always have such great things going on. We're coming off of CCMF last week, so we can talk about that a little bit today. Just so many great things going on in the area, and one thing about Myrtle Beach is there's always something new, and who's better to talk about that than yourself? But before we dive in, John, for the people who don't know you, for the one person in Myrtle Beach who doesn't know you right now, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, where do we start? Talk about myself. So grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina. Went to Radford University in Virginia after moving around a few states. And then about 10 years ago in 2012, right out of college, came to Myrtle Beach. Grew up vacationing here. Dad had moved here, have a little bit of family here, so decided to come here. And when I moved here, I kind of saw Myrtle Beach as a frontier. Mm-hmm. When you come out of college, obviously I had big city dreams. I like to chase big visions, and cities are the place to go for that. But Myrtle Beach is a blank canvas with a ton of untapped potential that's just now, to me, seeing the tapping of that potential. Moved here and then dove into real estate about a year or so in after a brief stint as a valet at the Hilton because jobs in Myrtle Beach are hard.
No, by the way, let's stay there real quick.
Yeah.
What can a valet in the city make? What's a great night for a valet?
Oh, man, a valet. I was at the Hilton Myrtle Beach Resort on the north end, and it was the first year of adding the valet program there when I became one. A good day, you can make a couple $100 on tips.
A couple $100, man. That's not bad.
Yeah, and it's a blast because when you're the valet, you control the entry. You're the first point of contact for guests. You tell people to move out of the driveway. You tell people where to go for dinner.
Yeah.
So it's a really great relationship building tool.
Man, and you're so good at networking. I'm betting you turned that into some future relationships, but that's a whole other story, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So after that, got into real estate in 2014 or 13. I can't remember now. I think it was 13. So I'm on year 9, going into year 9 in real estate, and got involved in the community through the Chamber of Commerce, and then fast forward to 2019, won a seat on City Council. So different leadership positions, and got here and some things along the way, and that's community's how I met you, Rob. So that's our common crowning connection.
I see what he did there. I like that. All right, awesome, man. That you can apply the name of the show within the show. I think you're the first person that's ever done that. I really appreciate that about you.
Have to do it.
He's always thinking, man. Hey, let's go to the Chamber of Commerce thing. Would you say that's the thing that launched who you are? And I say that in this way, and I mean it. I feel like for myself, when I got involved with the Home Builders Association here, and I started making the connections through there, eventually became the president of the association. I feel like that opened up a lot of doors for myself. Not saying it was the thing that made me, but it definitely opened up a lot of my doors initially. Was that the Chamber of Commerce for you, or was it something else?
I would say locally it is, but on a broader, more macro level, I've been very fortunate to have some mentors in my life, really going back to, starting in middle school, coming through high school, but really in college is where my service career started to take off. There were a couple of mentors I had starting in my junior year in college that saw some potential in me that I had no clue that I had.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important to tap into our young people and find those folks who you see some sort of spark in. And so I got involved in some volunteer leadership positions as well as service-oriented projects in college, from traveling to paint actually a small town in South Carolina, some of the buildings in a small abandoned mill town called Lockhart, South Carolina, to picking turnips for the hungry in Virginia, and then also giving out money to clubs and organizations at Radford University to allow them to put on events and programming. So that's going into that. A lot of folks say, we get a lot of credit, you and me both, as service leaders, and saying, oh man, you do so much for the community, yada, yada, yada. But until you're actually in service, there is a selfish component. And what I mean by that is there is no bigger and better feeling than what you will get from giving back to others.
Wow.
And until someone has, when I felt that in college, Rob, I mean, that was it. I mean, it was like, holy cow, I get to be such a part of something bigger, but also make myself feel good for doing it. And it's not a brevity thing. It's not a confidence thing or conceited thing. It's just like your heart fills up with joy because you get to wrap around others, wrap around a place, a person, and make them feel good and do better for them. And when you do better for other people, you're always going to do better for yourself.
Yeah, no, it's such a great point. And a couple of things I want to go. I want to go a couple of routes with what you just said, but I'm going to stay with the giving yourself, the service side of things, because I know that for my career, what was really fascinating is I've always been an ambitious guy. I kind of can relate with you on that. Going back to high school, I remember some of my ambitions were, I always wanted to be a leader and do the little things. But the thing that I found is that my greatest, external accolades came from when I'm giving back. I was recognized as a 40 under 40 in Pro Builder magazine. And when I was, the thing that got me there wasn't that I was building the greatest homes in town or that I was, had the greatest brokerage or anything like that. It was actually related to, they were talking about the Habitat for Humanity project and help for kids and the little things that you do that you did out of your heart that you didn't even realize. And these are the things you got recognized off of. And so a recommendation I have for people out there is, get involved in the community. It's bigger than you, and it does make you feel good, and I think that helps esteem, and that helps you be a better professional. Yeah,
I agree with that, and it's a lot of people have the excuse of I don't have time. And I had a gentleman about 3 or 4 years ago named Bill Stradeski, and he told me a quote that I'll never forget. And he says, "Dedication finds time." Mm-hmm. And if you believe in something, if you love something, it doesn't matter whether it's giving someone a bottle of water, giving somebody a hug, volunteering at your church. There is time to give back. Mm-hmm. And that's how I found the Chamber. Not to digress from, you asked the question a few minutes ago about Chamber. And Chamber was launched my volunteer career here in Myrtle Beach. I was working at the Sun News as a real estate advertising executive. And my manager at the time said, there's this cool program called the Chamber Ambassador Program at the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. You need to do this. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. And that was kind of their customer relationship or member relationship management program, all volunteer, application only. You have to dedicate yourself for at least a year. Mm-hmm. And that got me really involved in the community, going to chamber events, figuring out what they do, talking to different members, seeing how the chamber could better serve them. And then that launched me into also Leadership Grand Strand, which is the area's premier leadership program.
Oh, yeah.
And then getting involved with real estate, the Association of Realtors, I got involved almost immediately with the Young Professionals Network and the Legislative Committee, mm-hmm. which is actually how we got involved together.
I remember this, yeah.
So those two organizations, the Coastal Carolinas Association of Realtors and the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, were the two nonprofits that really grounded my foundation for leadership in the Myrtle Beach area. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. And I do want to go back to this because I want to talk about the leadership. I want to talk about the Myrtle Beach area in particular. But before I get into that, you mentioned something a little bit ago, and you said, you had some mentors throughout your life. And you talked about in high school, somebody saw something in you that you didn't necessarily see in yourself, and that made a big impact in you. How do we get this to the kids today, though? Because one of my concerns that I've always thought about is, as these kids are coming up through high school, do they have that person that goes a little bit deeper than, hey, come to school and do your thing and, get on social media and become a YouTube star or whatever it is, how do we get kids to that point? I mean, what do we do? What can we do as leaders to, help the kids get to where they need to be?
Man, I think that's a great question, and it's something, I'm not fortunate enough to be a parent yet, and I look forward to the day when I am. So I'm not going to give advice on parenting, but parents, I think, growing up with my dad had a very authoritarian way of raising me. So I think that parents can sometimes be a little too attached sometimes because mm-hmm. we're as parents, I think that parents are more concerned about disciplining, also very involved in who they become. Obviously, my dad, my mom, without them, I would not be where I am today.
Sure enough, yeah.
But I think we have to really give emphasis to our teachers. Mm-hmm. And I don't think our state and local and federal government gives enough to teachers, because teachers is where it started for me. Everybody that was a mentor for me in going back to 8th grade, middle school, high school, and then a college, was so involved in academics in some way. And the advantage that teachers have is that they are 1 or 2 degrees separated, meaning that they get to go home at the end of the day, recollect themselves, and come back and, always have that teacher face on. Where parents, they have the stresses of the day they bring home to the kids. And I dealt with that growing up, so I speak from experience. So teachers have the ability to connect with children in a way that parents may not be able to.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Going back to 8th grade, my middle school years had a lot of in-school and out-of-school suspension. But 8th grade, I had one teacher. His name was Todd Caton. And when I walked into his 8th grade English class, he said, teachers talk, right?
Yeah.
And so this is one thing I'd say to teachers is don't talk to each other about students, because teachers warn other teachers, and that sets up kids for failure.
That's amazing.
So I walked into 8th grade, and Todd Caton came into class, and he said, first day of class, he said, I want to let you all know that your teachers all try to talk to me about you, and I wouldn't allow it. He said, every single one of you coming into my classroom has a clean slate, and I want to get to know you for who you are.
Wow.
And 8th grade, I didn't get in trouble in his class one time.
Wow.
And that was the first, one of the first teachers that really had a huge impact on me, with such simple words. And teachers have the ability to see that kid when they are thinking in different ways, molding their brain, problem solving. That's where the world really has an opportunity to see a spark, is in the classroom. So I think we've really got to focus on our teachers, and it's such an important profession to put importance on.
I mean, my gosh. I mean, I've often told people, for all the leadership I do and teaching and public speaking when I do it, I have so much respect for the teachers, because that's one job that I think I would probably have a struggle getting excited about. And so when I find these people who are willing to do it and put themselves out there, it's such a difference maker, it's such a game changer, and we need them to stay motivated and inspired. In the state of South Carolina, maybe a countrywide thing, but we'll stay to South Carolina right now. Are we having trouble getting people into the teaching profession? I know that's been a concern for a while.
I think the last 2 years have been really hard. I've got some friends that are teachers that the past couple of years, between decisions from the school board or whatever it might be, have really, really struggled. The whole virtual thing. In Horry County, we had the whole $4 million spent on plexiglass dividers that scientifically never probably worked.
Right.
And they pretty quickly went away. There's been a lot of teachers that have quit and are gone. Great teachers that have either thought about quitting or are thinking about quitting because of the pressures of the past 2 years. Parents that don't understand. I have teacher friends that have been berated by parents because their kid did something wrong. But no way Johnny did something wrong. Let me tell you, Johnny did something wrong because I was little Johnny.
Right.
So I think it's super important to lift up, and teachers don't want to. It is not good on a teacher's day when they have to email a parent and say this person did something wrong.
Yeah, who wants to do that, right?
Yeah. So they're not they're not lying to you. Not to say there's always bad apples. That includes teachers. But by and large, I think teachers have had such a hard time the past couple of years. They give so much of themselves, and we don't give near enough to them.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think that's something that some of the leadership that I know, yourself and at the state level, I hear this. I mean, I do think there's a focus out there. We just got to keep, pushing and trying to make it a better environment for that. I do want to go into something, and we're going to get a glimpse into the life of John here. Uh-oh. So your dad was the authoritarian. When your dad wanted to get your attention, when little Johnny did something wrong, what would your dad do? What was his go-to highlight reel?
Oh, man. I mean, Dad was, Dad and I butted heads a lot growing up. I grew up in a pretty broken family. My parents got divorced at a young age. Dad married 3 times. Mom never remarried. Mom wasn't really present in life after age 8 for a while. And then, really much at all after age 8. And then Dad was like a puff the chest, raise his voice kind of person.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yeah.
And in my adulthood, I have learned to handle that to where I just don't. I do not allow communication to happen that way. Because there are such better ways. We can talk as adults, even to our kids, I think. And I am super, I say that again without having children, but like one of the things I've dedicated myself to is, and I do this in all my relationships, if I raise my voice like the sky is falling.
Okay.
That's like something is seriously wrong if John ever raises his voice, because to me, there are such better ways to communicate. And I remember growing up how that made me feel. And I think we have to go beyond. If we look at our parents and how we interact with them, I figured out a few years ago, we have to go beyond them, because there was my dad's dad yelled at him. Mm-hmm. And my dad has openly admitted to me that the reason he raised his voice as I was a kid was because my dad lost his dad when he was 12 in a coal mining accident.
Wow.
So his memories of his father were getting yelled at when he was in trouble. Mm-hmm. So that taught him before he was an adult, that's how he's going to teach his kids too, is yelling. But there's better ways to do it. And I think that we have grown because of that. And now we do a lot of work together. And my dad's my ride or die. We will yell at each other, or if things going really wrong, and we will butt heads like crazy. But at the end of the day, if someone got in the way of my dad, we'd have a problem.
Yeah, no, yeah. I totally know, man. I know you guys have each other's backs, and I've known that for quite some time. One thing that I will say, neither of us have kids, but I do have dogs, and here's my go-to with my dogs.
Same thing.
Oh, you sprayed the water bottle at them. If I got to get their attention, so I don't have any kid tips. But
so I know I'm getting a Home Depot when I leave today. I'm going to get a water bottle for my dad.
Yeah, and if you can get it like a little pump action,
right?
Boy, really good.
What we need to get is the fly salt guns.
Oh yeah,
that you shoot the flies with salt.
Yeah, that's
and
beautiful.
just start shooting salt at people.
Oh my gosh,
plenty of salt going around anyway these days.
Awesome. Well, these are tips with Rob and John. So let's go a different direction. And again, I have known you for a number of years. We met in the legislative committee. One thing I could say about you is I knew you were different even than the legislative committee, because I remember Nate. You remember Nate from back then?
Oh, man.
Great
Another
guy.
mentor.
God rest his soul, of
Absolutely.
course. But he was, we were going through kind of like the legislative outline. And, they do that token thing where, they're going around the room to see anybody have any notes, and everybody's just kind of sitting there. And here's John. Well, page 3, clause number 3, whatever. And you're just going through it systematically. I was like, man, this dude is on point. I love it. But, let's talk about your perseverance side. I know you ran originally at one point.
2015.
Yep, and did not win at that time, and you came back and won later. Tell me about the progression from that 2015 run to the next run where you got it, and kind of talk about your growth through that process.
So being a young person, two things that are difficult to tamper. One difficult to learn, one difficult to tamper. Learning is patience. Patience is really hard to learn. I'm still doing it at 32. Mm-hmm. Long way to go. And passion is the thing we have to tamper sometimes. You have to let that fire absolutely go crazy, but you also have to learn to do a controlled burn, mm-hmm. as they would call it in the Forest Service, right? So with that, 2015, it was all passion. It was all passion, no patience, and it wasn't systematic or strategic. Mm-hmm. I listened to people, but I didn't really I heard people. I did not listen to people.
Gotcha.
People that told me to do this and told me I needed this and told me I needed this much money, and I didn't do any of it. Mm-hmm. I did not do the work that was required to be done. Because of that, I lost. Fast forward 2017, I could have ran then, but I was told by a really great mentor to me who is now passed away. He's like, you're not ready yet. Don't do it. And so I said, okay. It was really hard to not do it 2 years later, but I think I'm pretty confident I probably would have lost in 2017 as well. So I'm glad that I did listen to him. And then 2019, had the right team with me, beside of me, behind me, sometimes in front of me, mm-hmm. pulling me where I didn't want to go. But it's looking back, I will go there in the future, because we get in the way of ourselves a lot more than anybody else does or ever will. Yeah. And, did the work, raised the money, walked miles and miles, and knocked on hundreds of doors, as I should have done in 2015, mm-hmm. and ended up in a runoff against an incumbent at the time, and flipped the script. We had a pretty wide field in 2019. We had one person that had run before, another person that had been on council for 12 years combined, but wasn't in 2019 when he ran, and then an incumbent who had been on 8 years combined, 4 years in the 80s, 4 years recently, and a couple others. It was a pretty wide field. Yeah. So, we were able to get to second place. The incumbent had beaten me in the general, but I got close enough to be on a runoff, didn't get that 50 plus 1%. Mm-hmm. And then basically a runoff is everything you do in a 4-month campaign for city council essentially is about what a campaign is for city council, if you want to narrow it down and condense it. Yeah. All starts over for a 2-week period.
Good Lord.
Yeah. The fundraisings, because, in the general election, the first Tuesday in November, the general election, you are spending everybody your money. Your mm-hmm. goal on election day is to be at 0, because if you're at 0, that means you did everything you could.
Sure.
Well, on the first Wednesday after the Tuesday, and that bank account's at 0, and you have 2 more weeks of campaigning to do, all of a sudden you have to start over.
Going back and asking more for more
Right.
money and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Right. So there was, after 2015, to go back a little bit, a lot of folks, the one issue I have with folks that run is that a lot of people will run on local levels, and then if they lose, they disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
if you're not doing it for service, then my question is, why are you doing it all?
Yeah.
So
good
after
point.
2015, when I lost, it was just, let's keep doing service to the community. And I said that during both my campaigns, win or lose, I'm still here for the community.
Yeah.
I run again next year in 2023, and if I lose for some reason, then hey, I'm still going to be serving the community, because that's why I'm doing it.
Absolutely. Man, I love that. And I hope, I can only hope that most people have that mentality. I'm afraid they do not, but I think that is one thing that makes you special. And I don't think anybody that is in Myrtle Beach that I go and talk to doesn't know your name. We know you're out there doing things, and that's really, really to be commended. Let's talk about your time on the council. What are you most proud of that you've accomplished since you've been in there?
Oh, that's a broad question.
Right? I know, man. Well, maybe go to your top 2 or 3 or something.
Okay,
you know?
of course. So what I'll say is, the thing that I'm going to start with, the thing that gives me the most joy, and then I'll go into the biggest, what people would consider the biggest accomplishment. So the things that give me the most joy when I'm on council are the little things.
Mm-hmm.
I think of 2020 pandemic year was my first year on council. So it was interesting, because 2020 was very much so intentionally, really unintentionally, slower than a traditional year. You're not going to events every 2-3 times a week. You're not doing this. You have fewer meetings, sometimes more meetings because of conference calls, whatever it might be. 2021 was like a way different pace, because it was events all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that bring me the most joy on council are when someone calls me and says, hey, I have a ditch that has a problem. And then I get an email from that person saying, hey, my ditch was cleaned up within 2 days.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Or whatever, the thank yous from the common folks that are getting out there voting. Those give me the most joy, because those are the things you can really touch and see the impact now.
Yeah.
Things that politicians / general public would see as the biggest things, I'd have to say what we're doing downtown.
Mm-hmm.
We have done such huge things downtown, and more to come. And a lot of that I won't necessarily see the impact for another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Oh, for sure.
Because whether it's the new brewing company we have, whether it's spending $300,000 renovating a park to get activation in there that's a positive manner, or spending over $15 million on derelict properties and hotels that are a huge burden to our first responders in the community, and tearing them down so that they're not a burden anymore, and we have an opportunity for new development to brighten what I think can be the best city on the East Coast. And that doesn't happen without big, broad, visionary moves by a group of people. And it's not just council, Rob. I mean, we've got so many people that are working together, whether it's staff, whether it's developers that are interested in our city. There's a massive team that sees so much potential in this blank canvas of Myrtle Beach to make it what it can be for future generations.
Man, I mean, it's so powerful, and I agree with you. The kinds of things you're doing, if you're really trying to innovate on a city level, the things you're doing are not things you're going to see within campaign 1 or term 1, term 2 even. It takes some time to develop, but we can see those seeds now. One of them being CCMF. I mean, a huge success. It looks like again this year. Just such a massive undertaking, and to see the way that came together. Were you able to make it out to CCMF at all?
I did for Saturday.
Nice.
For Saturday.
Yeah, such a good event, and I think that the more of those that we're doing, and the more attention Myrtle Beach gets, it's just an amazing thing. Is there any particular spot in Myrtle Beach other than that area where we have Nance's Plaza and we have all the good things going on? Is there any other spot in the city that's on your mind that you're like, wow, this could be the next big blow up area?
Man, I think you're downtown, because Market Common has taken a life of its own, again, by the city's investment, over $40 million,
Sure.
Not by my council, but or the council I'm on, but by past councils, over $40 million spent there. Grand Dunes is taking a life of its own, a lot because of the vision of Burrs and Chapin prior to them selling it to other companies. But downtown, the Withers Swash neighborhood, which is where I moved 2 years ago to kind of be in the vision that I have every day. Withers Swash Park, we have our own little Myrtle's Inlet. called Wither Swash, and it looks like Murrells Inlet, but it's residential. It's small houses. The house I bought was built in the 1930s by the person who built Dunes Club Golf Course as well as Pine Lakes Golf Course.
Cool.
So there's so much history there, and that's in 10 years, that's going to be the place that everybody wants to live. I don't have any doubt about it.
Yeah.
The Myrtle Beach Downtown Alliance that was just formed to do events in that area, as well as make sure the streets are clean, make sure that area looks nice and puts its best foot forward. That is going to be where everyone's like, that's going to be America's downtown in 10 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, those are good tips. And for those people, we do have some, obviously, other people in the nation that listen to this, and they're thinking about going to Myrtle Beach. And I can tell you, we're seeing the improvements and incremental improvements. And as we talk about sometimes that 1% improvement each day, each year, they go a long way. For yourself, if you have somebody that's listening right now and they're like, I'm thinking about going to Myrtle Beach on a vacation, what would you say are, a couple of things that you would really recommend that you got to do this if you're going to Myrtle Beach?
Oh, that's another good one. I would definitely say you need to go see some real live music, and Murrells Inlet's great, and they've got some good bands down there, but most of them it's a lot of cover bands sometimes.
Sure.
I'd say hit Bourbon Street. Bourbon Street on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays a lot of time has live music, so that's a good one. You have to hit it. You have to hit our Myrtle Beach Boardwalk because that's being renovated right now.
Nice.
And a lot of things going on down there, whether it's Ripley's, do the tourist thing, whether it's going to Duffy's and having, in my opinion, one of the best burgers in town and some of the best fries in town right on the boardwalk, which is right beside the Bowery, which is the birthplace of famous country band Alabama.
Sure.
So that's really how you see where Myrtle Beach is coming from. And number 3. Number 3 would have to be probably, take a stroll around Market Common, the lakes, the shopping area. That is really, Market Common is a prime example of what a city can do with a blank canvas. That's obviously the former Air Force Base. We have a rich 50-plus year military history that we deserve to give so much respect. We deserve so much respect to the veterans who fought out of our Air Force Base, who gave time there, going back to World War II when it was an Army Air Base. We have one of the best airports in the country now, in my opinion, all because of the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base. Absolutely. So go down there and see what broad brushstrokes can really do with Market Common.
Yeah, 100%. No, that great tips. And, I think a lot of times people come to the area and they don't know just how different it has become over the last, 25, 30 years. And to go out and spend some time at Broadway at the beach and all the little things, Market Common, such a huge undertaking. My dad's Air Force for a number of years. And just to see that base, I don't think anybody could ever understand just how much it's changed over the years. To see, military bases, they're very, hangars here and there and, very similar looking housing. To see what it's turned into, such an amazing undertaking. Right. So any other little secrets for us of what's up next for Myrtle Beach and what you're seeing out there?
Oh man, and I have to add to that to-do list in Myrtle Beach. Check out our food scene, because a lot of folks will go to the touristy places, the Margaritavilles, and they're great and they help boost our tourist scene, but we have so many cool places like New York Prime, 44 and King, Aspen Grill,
very true,
Sun City Cafe. So our food scene for locals and our international food scene is so rich and vibrant, so make sure to do some research on those. Things coming down the pipe for Myrtle Beach. I think you're going to see some really cool things. I think you're going to see some improvements of some kind, whatever they may be, to the baseball stadium, because the Major League Baseball has really increased their rules for what minor league stadiums have to do. So something's going to have to be done to the ballpark to make it better. So keep watching, because Myrtle Beach is going to be full of surprises the next 5 years. And I think they're all going to be amazing.
That's super cool. Well, I'll tell you, Pelicans Ballpark already pretty nice.
It's super nice.
So when it gets up to that next level, and just get outside of Myrtle Beach, come on down. Check out CCU, man. We got a great football program, great programs in general, baseball programs. If you're heading north of here, getting out to Barefoot, so many amazing things you can do there. Going south to the Marsh Walk and Murrells Inlet. So definitely just a lot of great things, a lot of great local businesses. I appreciate that.
And shout out to CCU too, because CCU's really partnering with the city. We're going to have a performing arts theater where they're going to be a partner on it.
Nice.
And Michael Benson out there, the new president of Coastal Carolina University, is really doing a great job in terms of community engagement and really being a great face for Coastal Carolina. He had huge shoes to fill
Yeah.
with Dr. DeCenzo leaving the university. So he's doing a really good job so far.
I can tell you, we were doing a tour of CCU one day, and Michael Benson was not with us, but when we were talking to the employees behind the scenes, they were all saying this. They were saying he's just a hands-on guy. He'll come in, and it doesn't matter if you're the janitor or whoever you are. He's saying, hello, how's it going? How's your day? He's a real hands-on guy. So credit to him, credit to CCU. And, of course, CCU grads, we try to hire them whenever we can here. So beautiful
on,
thing.
man. That's
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff.
Well, John, I know we could talk all day, but you've been
could.
amazing as always, man. We'll have to get you again sometime soon if you would.
Absolutely, Rob. Thanks for having me so
Beautiful.
much.
Man, great stuff, John. Thanks for being on the show.
Keep rocking it, buddy. Good to see you.
Absolutely. And this is Rob Clemens. We're signing out on Crowning Connections. Like us, share us. We'll see you guys next time.